We're going to walk through the top 10 things to do that you can do in Alaska on an Alaskan vacation, whether you're there for a week, a month, a summer. There's so many things to do in Alaska you cannot experience if you're on a cruise on a very tight itinerary. So let's go right through the top 10. Number one, and these are really in no particular order, the Kenai Fjords National Park. This is where the ice meets the ocean on the Kenai Peninsula. I was lucky to spend a whole week on the Kenai Peninsula, and several of the activities we're going to talk about in this video are right there at the Kenai. At the Kenai Fjords National Park, you have amazing views, whether you're doing it from a tour boat or, like I did, hiking through the park. You can actually hike to the glaciers and just have amazing scenery, basically all to yourself in a national park. Number two on our top 10 list, and again, these are in no particular weighted order, fly fishing. You have amazing fly fishing in Alaska. Fly fishing in Alaska is about the best in the world. I caught monster rainbow trout, Dolly Varden, Arctic grayling. The options are limitless, and just about every river and stream in Alaska produces fish. Another amazing thing to do in Alaska is take a full day charter halibut fishing, and you could do that on the Kenai in the halibut fishing capital of the world, which is Homer, Alaska, right there. Okay, do check the rules and regulations on halibut fishing. They typically close one day a week rather, and that's a random day. Do check. And for that, you really do need to go out on a head boat or a six-pack boat. Phenomenal halibut fishing. They will process and freeze and ship your fish right there out of Homer, all taken care of. You can send it to your home. That's exactly what I did. I have videos on that and blog posts. Another amazing thing to do in Alaska, not on a cruise ship, is flight seeing. Flight seeing is a way to get out and off the beaten path. So much of Alaska is inaccessible by roads, and certainly inaccessible by cruise ships, that the best way to see it is actually charter a plane or go on a flight seeing tour. I did two such tours. One, actually both in the Denali area. One was a flight seeing tour up and around Mount Denali, landing on a glacier. That was the way I ended my vacation. It ended the trip up on Mount Denali. Absolutely breathtaking. Just one of the non-fishing highlight of my trip was the flight seeing tour to Mount Denali. That runs about $500 for about 3 hours. The other flight seeing tour I did was out of Talkeetna, and that was going actually into the Denali National Park for a full day of extremely remote fishing. So much of Alaska is accessible only by charter flights. And again, I'm going to list a bunch of stuff in the description. Another amazing little thing to do in Alaska is Talkeetna. And Talkeetna is a small town. It's about an hour and a half or so north of Anchorage. Actually, the Alaska Railroad goes there, and you will see people there from the cruises making a day trip. I spent 4 or 5 days in Talkeetna. It's a nice little town with a big mountain, Mount Denali, right outside. So you have the national parks, you have state parks, you have world-class fishing, mountain climbing, you have all kinds of stuff, including really great local nightlife and drinking and music and shopping on the streets. Things that you can't do if you're just there on an excursion for the day from your cruise. Denali National Park, the next amazing thing to do in Alaska. It's the park. The national park is the size of Belgium. You cannot see this on a day tour coming out of your cruise ship. You need to spend time in Talkeetna or camping in the park. It's just beyond description. The scenery is breathtaking. The wildlife is amazing. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do the hiking that I wanted to do because the previous day I took a really nasty fall in the river fly fishing, and I was completely black and blue from my shoulders all the ways down to my legs on my right side. And I decided not to do any hiking, as the last thing I needed to have was a medical emergency or being in severe pain in a few hours walk from where I needed to be. But Denali is definitely doable even if you're not hiking. Alaska museums, definitely worth a visit, and I did this on my first day, was the Anchorage Museum in downtown Anchorage. And it has an amazing display of native Alaskan art, artifacts, and history. I spent a couple hours there just really taking in the local culture. It was a short walk from my hotel in downtown Anchorage. And the other really great museum that I enjoyed was the Museum of the North on the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And that really focuses on the life and culture of the Inuits in northern Alaska and in the Arctic region, and the natural geological history of the Arctic. Both of those museums were on my to-do list going to Alaska. Festivals. Alaska has a lot of festivals. Many of them are obviously in the summertime. They have a few big ones in the wintertime as well. I planned my trip around being in Fairbanks for the summer solstice and participating in the Midnight Sun Summer Festival, which was a blast. It was like, Fairbanks has a population of about 30,000 people or so, and it seemed like everybody was there. I stayed out there for many hours, ate street food, drank beer, played games, listened to music, hung out. It was really a lot of fun. I'm very glad I went, and if you have the opportunity of being in Fairbanks for that festival or any other festival in the state, go ahead and do it. The people in Alaska are incredibly friendly and will definitely take the time out and help you and talk with you and give you pointers and tips. It just really blew my mind, that festival. And again, it's not something you would be able to do if you're stuck on a cruise itinerary. Road trips. I drove over 3,000 miles while I was in Alaska, okay, in this truck that I beat the crap out of. I drove on dirt, I drove on gravel, I drove off-road, mud. I totally wrecked the truck. I had to power wash it before I returned it, so not to get hit with all kinds of fees. So if you can rent a 4x4, absolutely do it, because you can go on the Dalton Highway all the ways north of Fairbanks, all the ways up to the Arctic Ocean at Dead Horse, Prudhoe Bay. You can't do that, again, unless you make your itinerary and you do these things on your own. The Dalton Highway is absolutely one of the highlights of driving if you have the time and you're in Fairbanks and you want to head north. Some of the highlights on the Dalton Highway: going over the only bridge over the Yukon River. It's the largest river in Alaska. Driving past the Arctic Circle, and you get to see the sign and maybe take some selfies with you, passing the 66 degrees latitude, 33 minutes north. Okay, and really the landscape really starts changing at around that latitude. Two more things to do up along the Dalton Highway, for sure, is to stop in at Coldfoot Camp, which was made famous or infamous, depending how you look at it, from ice road truckers. And then further up north is the Adigan Pass, and that is, even in the summertime, some white knuckle driving, spectacular views. Got to stay focused on the road, but there are some pull-offs where you can turn and take pictures and whatnot. And then from there, past the Adigan Path, you're going down onto the North Slope, and it's open tundra all the ways to the Arctic Ocean. One thing that I did that was really a lot of fun is the Musk Ox Farm in Palmer, Alaska. It's about, 45 minutes or so north of Anchorage. It's the only place to see these prehistoric Ice Age relics, the musk ox, without going and actually seeing them in the wild, really far up north on the tundra, which I didn't unfortunately see any in the wild. So I'm glad I was at the Musk Ox Farm in Palmer. You get to see these magnificent beasts that were on the verge of extinction, and the tour tells you how they were revitalized in North America from the only surviving herd that was in Greenland. Bonus, if you have or know people in Alaska, friends or relatives, or in my particular case, Old Navy shipmates, spend some time with the locals. The knowledge that they have, not just on where to eat, drink, but just road conditions, where to go, what to do, things off the beaten path, things that tourists don't know. That information is invaluable. And even if you don't have any friends, if you're not on a cruise and you're in a bar or in a restaurant, any of the locals will talk to you, and they'll be more than glad to give you tips. Certainly a cruise director would not have access to. Just an amazing state, amazing people. Do yourself a favor and enjoy it by not going on a cruise.